Welcome into another episode of Red Zone Talk, episode 25. I'm Owen Burke. He's Tim Hunt. We love to talk about football and excited and a little sad. Last episode for a while, right? So
Yeah.
probably going to take a break. Obviously, just not a lot of football news happening. Obviously, if something breaking happens, some big news, we might hop in, do a 20-minute, 30-minute talk on whatever it is, but it's going to have to be something pretty substantial to break that schedule. Probably look at doing something early, mid-April, get ready for the draft, obviously.
I think we're forgetting there is the free agency window.
Ooh, very true. Yeah,
So we'll probably we talked about it before the show, and I'm now like,
it's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
I
Glad you
don't
caught that
know
now.
when it starts. I'm gonna try to that starts March 13th. So you'll probably see us like March 20th,
Yeah, we
somewhere
could
in that
do.
ballpark, like mid-March for like first week of free agent reaction. Um, and then we'll be back like pre-draft. We'll probably have 2 episodes pre-draft and then an episode right after the first round. Like we'll probably have an episode that comes out on we'll record it on Friday. It'll probably come out Saturday of the
Saturday
draft
after the draft.
of our first round reactions there. So that's the game plan. So you'll have 3 episodes in April, maybe 1 or 2 in March. If something big happens, like Owen said, we might hop on, record something 20, 30 minutes. You know what I mean? But far as long episodes go, this is the last one you're going to have of this NFL season.
Yeah, it's going to be a much needed break. My schedule's gotten ridiculous. I'm starting to work a lot more at the radio station, doing a lot of exciting stuff. I'm very excited about it, but the days and the weeks have been long, I will say. Um, but I'm not here to talk about all that jazz. I'm here to talk about football. All right. So before we dive into the Super Bowl recap and all of our stuff that we're normally going to get to, obviously we got to take care of first and foremost, and that'd be trivia. You want to shout out our social medias before we dive into trivia at all?
Oh yeah, Red Zone Talk Pod on YouTube and TikTok, and then we're Red Zone Talk on Instagram. Um, expect more. Like we did the video this year. Like
Mm-hmm.
this was like kind of the first season of doing video. Like what, a month into the football season.
Yeah.
Um, expect social media next year to kind of be up and rising. We're gonna try to do tighter segments so we can actually like clip stuff. That's the problem with us is like,
Rambling.
yeah, people will do a trivia and they'll post it and it'll be like 5 minutes of trivia. We do like 20 minutes of trivia. So it's just like impossible to try to put that up anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and we've talked about like new formats next season. We're going to try out some different stuff and just kind of throw some stuff around and see what works best for the people. So
Yeah, I'm hoping my work schedule will calm down and shrink a little bit, which will then allow me some extra time to put some extra time into the podcast. Because behind the scenes, as of right now, Tim's doing a lot of the legwork. I'm putting 40 hours in at one place and another 20 at another place, and it just with a 2-year-old and a fiance, it does not leave me a lot of video editing, and I'm horrible about sharing the show as well. So
Owen's the pretty face to the show. He shows up.
I'm the talent.
He's the talent. He walks on screen, reads the script that I write him. He just mumbles it off, and that's
Yep.
the end.
Yeah, I'm reading from a teleprompter half the time. That's what it is. Which is weird because all up until working with you, it's the exact opposite. I'm usually the talent on the air too, but I'm always putting the legwork in before the show and everything. And since you started doing it, I just have kind of sat back and cheese for a while. So definitely hope
Enjoyed it,
to
yeah.
fix that schedule. But once life calmed down around it, I do think, and I think the product will be better off for it as well. So that's the goal. We'll see how the work schedule stuff shakes out. We'll keep you posted on that as time goes on. But we got to get some trivia out of the way here. So obviously, last show for a while. Maybe I should have saved this for draft season, but obviously there's a lot of discussion over the number 1 overall pick this offseason. So I'm looking for the top 10 in passing yards by number 1 overall picks in NFL history. So all time number 1 overall picks. I don't think there's any guys, like pre-merger or anything. You're dealing with Super Bowl era guys here, obviously. So 10 guys on the list. There's not a crazy tie at the end of this at all. So you got 10 names.
Clean 10.
I think what
I
you
need
need
to get
4?
5.
5?
I need 5. 4 to tie, 5 to win for the season on
Feels
trivia.
pretty confident that you'll be able to knock this one out.
I sure as heck hope so.
If you didn't get 5 here, I'd be real disappointed, honestly.
Yeah.
Not that it's a super easy list, but 5 is a pretty low mark, I think. I left the bar low for you.
And this is a weird list. Like, there's not going to be.
It is, because you gotta. I mean, it's just the knowledge of number 1 picks, so it is a little bit more difficult in that aspect. But to give you the baseline, your number 10 guy has 33,124 passing yards. So there's a decent bit
more than I thought.
Yeah.
Ooh, that throws into some questions already into the names I had coming in my head.
Yeah. So, and there is 2 active guys on the list, I think.
Oh wow, 2 active guys, really?
Or is there 1? No, that's wrong. 1 active guy. 1 active guy on the list. Number 12 guy is active. That's why I screwed that up.
Man, who would be the other active guy?
Yeah.
You already got me like.
And that active guy is towards the top of the list, which is, you may just be forgetting a career. Wait a second. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, he wasn't a number 1 overall pick. I'm sitting here like, who the hell how's this guy not here? It's not a number 1 overall pick. So that quickly already got into my brain here. But 3 hints, 2 hints.
2 hints?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. 3 strikes.
Hints don't matter. You could give me 50.
Very true.
It wouldn't matter with you.
We're going to do 3 strikes, and I'll probably just nerd sesh hint the way through this, most likely at the end.
We're gonna knock some big names just out of the gate. We're gonna go. Peyton Manning has got to be towards the top of this list. Probably 1. I'm assuming
he is number 1 on the list. 71,940 yards by far and away. He is about 15,000 above the next guy.
I figured there was a big jump. John Elway is also probably on this list, right?
Yes, he is number 4 on our list here, with 51,475 yards. Sorry if I'm looking off the screen. I'm running the dual monitor for the last show just to make it weird, but I'll stop looking off once we get trivia out of the way. So
30,000 is a big number, man. That number scares me. It's like, did Cam Newton get there? Probably not enough time. Like, he scares me a little bit. Dan Marino's? I'm questioning whether Dan Marino was the first overall pick. I don't feel like he was. That's probably why he's not. Because he would be closer to Peyton than that, I would imagine. Maybe he wouldn't. But I don't think Dan Marino was the first overall pick, because otherwise he'd be here. Where was Elway on this list?
Elway was 4 at 51,000. So you stretch, the real stretch starts from number 2 at 57,000 down to our 33,000. And there's one guy that's close to the top 10 at 11. You have another 2,000 yard drop, and then you kind of drop down to the 27 range. Okay. So there's a somewhat decent drop off.
Man, Drew Bledsoe wasn't the first overall pick, though. I don't think he was. Now I'm questioning. Gosh, now I got to think of, because like Andrew Luck definitely can't be here. I don't know about Cam Newton. I'm trying to think of who the active guy would be.
I'll give you a free one. Dan Marino, not a number 1 overall pick. He's number 27 that year.
Okay. Yeah, I thought those teams were too good to get him.
I did not know he fell that far. Truthfully, I thought he was like 2 or 3.
He wasn't like a super coveted guy coming out either,
which is crazy. When you watch his stuff at Pitt, you're like, how's this guy not up there? Like,
yeah, he balled. Sugar, man. I'm just, maybe I'm over. Eli Manning's got to be here.
Yeah, not a guy that I would have thought that would have jumped. He's number 2, right behind his brother Peyton.
Wow, number 2, Jesus.
Yeah, 57,000 yards. Yeah, so he is sandwiched between Elway, Peyton, and then number 3 is our active guy, actually. So,
man, number 3's that high up. See, it's like, I'm thinking of old heads in the league that are starting. It's like Rodgers wasn't the first pick. Alex Smith was the first pick of his draft. And that feels like a tall number for Alex Smith's career. Alex Smith started a long time. Alex Smith could be here. But he didn't throw. It's not like he was a 5,000 yard guy.
True, yeah.
I'm just trying to run through like the great draft classes in my head of like,
Yeah, there's one. I mean, there's one really surprising name here where I was like, this guy is top 10, purely a longevity guy to make the top 10. And then you got 14 Super Bowls combined between these 10 guys. and 4 Hall of Famers on this list. Granted, you do have 2 Hall of Famers with Manning and Elway already. Good news is you need 2 more answers and you're already there. So, and you haven't burned a strike yet. So you can swing free, in my opinion.
So I've got 3. I'm going to use a hint here. I need some guidance.
All right. So
one of these guys.
We've got some dynasty quarterbacks from the 90s that are here. 2 guys that I would consider as part of dynasties in the 90s. You have said a name already. 2 names that are on this list that you didn't officially guess. You got our crazy pick, a longevity journeyman. You have our active guy who plays in the NFC currently. He's played his whole career in the NFC. And number 5, played for 3 teams. I think he started a Super Bowl in his career, lost the only Super Bowl he appeared in. Had a pretty solid career for a number 1 overall pick, I'd say, but not a Hall of Fame caliber guy. He's a Hall of Very Good guy. It would be our number 5 guy. Played for 3 separate teams.
Interesting.
Yeah. Of your, I think you've got, your 2 dynasty quarterbacks won 3 Super Bowls apiece.
A piece in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah. I believe one of them gets tricky. I know the other guy started for all 3.
Yeah. Steve Young is probably one of those guys.
Steve Young,
he was traded from somewhere to San Francisco.
From Tampa Bay to San Francisco. Yeah, I think he won 1 as backing up Joe Montana and then 1 his own 2 as a starter. He's number 9, 33,000 yards.
Okay. That's kind of a good benchmark. Man, I don't think Troy Aikman was the first overall pick, though. That'd be nuts. Could he have been? The Cowboys were bad maybe in the 80s or something. I don't know.
I don't know when he would have got drafted. That's a great question.
He might have got drafted. I mean, he probably got drafted in the 80s because they won a Super Bowl pretty early in the 90s, I want to say. I'll rip Troy Aikman. I don't have a strike, so.
Troy Aikman is number 10. He is the guy that squeaks onto our list here.
Damn.
Yeah, he was drafted of number 1 overall pick in
Cowboys?
1989, yeah.
89, okay.
Number 1 overall by the Cowboys.
I knew they won one pretty early with Jimmy. It was like 91, 92, 93, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so that's one of our Hall of Famers as well. So, I mean, that's 5. So you got a dub. You're playing with cheddar now.
God, the active guy in the NFC is really just eating away at me. It's not the NFC South. Like, that whole division's just a mess.
Definitely a mess.
Can't be the North.
It's Baker Mayfield. Surprise. No, I'm just kidding.
Baker Mayfield, idiot. Jared Goff couldn't have thrown for 30,000 yards already, so it can't be the North, then. That takes them out, right? Packers, Lions, Vikings. Well, Kirk Cousins was a 4th rounder.
Yeah,
I was
he's
like,
a 4th
Kirk
rounder.
could be
See,
there, but no,
I did the same thing with Aaron Rodgers when I was at least setting up the question. I'm like, how's Aaron Rodgers out here? I'm like, it's not a number one.
Yeah, he wasn't first. Alex Smith was first in his class.
True.
Not the Bears. Okay. So it's not Brock Purdy, obviously. It's not Kyler. Kyler's too young. It's not Geno Smith was definitely not a first overall person.
Not a first overall guy, no.
Why do I always lose that other team? Oh, the Rams. Oh, it could be Stafford. That's who it could be. Yeah, Stafford. I'm gonna guess that.
It is Matthew Stafford, number 3 on our list. Yes,
yeah, that makes sense.
56,000 yards puts him at number 3 on our list for
Just
the
was
day.
hurling balls at
Calvin Johnson. Right. Calvin's down there somewhere.
Yeah, Calvin's down there somewhere. Just lob it up. He's 6'8". He'll catch it.
He'll go get it. Okay.
So now it gets interesting. The journeymen are intriguing.
I gotta look this up. I'm pretty sure I want to say the journeyman played for both of our teams, but I could be wrong.
That's not helpful.
Yeah, the journeyman did play for both of our teams. He played for Baltimore in the late 90s, and he played for the Patriots in the mid 2000s. When I say play, I say played for a reason. I don't know if he definitely didn't start a lot of games.
Yeah. No, I mean, mid 2000s Patriots backups, man.
Yeah, not a lot of playing time to be had at quarterback there.
The problem with this list is like all these terrible names jump to my head. Like I'm like Doug Flutie. It's like Doug Flutie wasn't the first overall.
Nah,
pick.
not a number 1 overall pick guy. No, definitely not.
Because he definitely played for us in the mid-2000s.
Just a fun fact to toss in when you were talking about trying to find your active guy. Number 12 on our list, Jared Goff. You're like, no way, he's got 30,000. Just over it. 30,429. Yeah,
Damn.
just at
You
it.
just forget that he throws for 4,000 yards every season.
Yeah, I mean,
he climbs that list fast.
Plays in a Sean McVay offense for a couple of years, and he's had a pretty good 2 years in Detroit.
I'm gonna say Alex Smith got here. I'm gonna guess Alex Smith. He had to have gotten here, right?
Alex Smith, number 8 on our list, 35,650 yards.
Yeah, he had like 3 good seasons with the Chiefs, a couple good seasons with the Niners with Harbaugh at the end of that time, and then like just basically mediocre the rest of his career.
But played a decent bit.
90s Ravens quarterback.
Yeah, so you're missing just 5, 6, and 7 on our list, which is 2 of them played in New England, and then you have number 5, which is our Hall of Very Good, made a Super Bowl but didn't win.
Drew Bledsoe a first overall pick?
I believe he was.
And is he here?
He is here.
He is here. Okay.
Drew Bledsoe's number 7, 44,000 yards. So like he's got Alex Smith beat by a good 9,000 yards.
See, it wasn't with him. It wasn't if he was going to be on here. It was if he was the first overall pick.
Yeah, he was the number 1 overall pick.
Because he played mainly in New England and Buffalo for most of his career. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I got 2 guys left. One of them played in New England in the mid-2000s and also played in Baltimore.
Yep. So Brady backup, journeyman, somehow has 46,000 yards and played for 7 total teams.
Man, nothing's jumping at the page to me. I'm just trying to think of like mid-2000 Patriots backups. It's all the random ass guys that come to my head. That's the issue.
Brian Hoyer, Matt Castle.
Yeah, it's none of those guys. Boy, I'm not gonna get too caught up on that. And the other guy was, you said, the Hall of Very Good.
Hall of Very Good. Played for 3 teams. Played for 2 legendary receivers, one in 2 different spots, and then had a couple decent years with a pretty bad franchise before he went to his final destination. That's the team he made the Super Bowl with. I believe they matched up with the Steelers. I really hope that I'm not just feeding you horseshit and he was the starting quarterback.
No, you're okay.
Wouldn't be the first time if I just
matched up against the Steelers. So he either played for the Cardinals, which I don't think he did. Who did the Steelers beat in their other Super Bowl? Was it Seattle? Yeah, they beat Seattle in their other Super Bowl. Matt Hasselbeck, there's no way he was a first overall pick.
Trying to confirm if he did play in that Super Bowl or not.
You're okay. Yeah, I don't know who that would be. I don't know who this Brady backup is either. That's like the one that's really making me lose my mind.
I feel like I kind of gave it away with how many teams he played for, but you may not have been. No, okay, he did not play in the Super Bowl for it was Kurt Warner that was in the Super Bowl against the Steelers that I was thinking of. Okay. So no, he got to Arizona in 2013, which I think that Super Bowl was.
Carson Palmer. Duh.
Carson Palmer, number 5.
Yeah.
Played for Cincinnati, Oakland, Arizona.
Yeah. Played for Oakland for like four games, it felt like. It was like, get me the hell out of here.
Get me the fuck out of here. Yeah, he went from Chad Ochocinco to whoever the hell had in Oakland out to Larry Fitzgerald for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Carson Palmer makes sense. Okay, so that's 9, right?
Yep. So you're missing number 6.
Backup.
Your Brady backup played for 7 total teams.
Can you give me, as my last hint, will you just tell me the year this guy was drafted?
Yeah, I'd have to let me pull his Wikipedia page back up here. He's drafted number 1 overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I did put that in here before.
Okay. Chris Sims, just kidding.
He was drafted in 1987. Played from 87 to 07, by the way. A large reason of why he was on this list.
Man.
Yes.
He is not old enough.
Spread out through the years. 2-time Pro Bowler. Won a national championship in college.
It's not Mark Brunell. He's not old enough. And he finished his career in New York. I don't even think he played for the Patriots. I'm going to throw in the white flag. Like, I just don't feel like I have any shot.
You're going to smack yourself, but I didn't know this guy was the number 1 overall pick. Good old Vinny Testaverde is on this
Oh,
list.
Vinny, come on, Vinny.
I thought when I said played for 7 teams, and I was like, that's going to give it away. Why did I say that?
It should have. He was the first overall pick. That's
nuts. Yeah, coming out of Miami, first overall pick in 87.
I always forget he played in New England for a little bit. I always think of him as a Jet. Like, he's one of those guys that's like, say Vinny Testaverde, you think of him as a Jet, you know?
Let's see the other quarterbacks drafted in the first round this year. Jim Harbaugh, 26 to the Bears. That's a name I recognize. Other than that, I don't know a goddamn name in the first round for quarterbacks, that is.
Yeah. I'll take it. I'll take the 9.
That's pretty solid, because I think I only gave you really one hint. Like, and granted, it was a spread hint through the whole list, but still.
Yeah.
Not a bad day on trivia at all for you.
No. Well, that puts me in the victor spot. Go ahead.
It does. Just to shout out some other memorable names, I went down to 20 or 15 on this list just to have your closest. Like you said, Jared Goff is 12 at 30,000. Number 11, a guy I thought you might guess, Cam Newton, 32,000. He just falls short.
He came to my mind.
If he doesn't miss 2 games for COVID, he might take Troy Aikman's spot on this list. He was definitely close. Terry Bradshaw was 13. Jeff George at number 14. And another former Patriots number 1 overall pick, Jim Plunkett at number 15, 25,000 yards.
Yeah, Jameis would be here if he didn't lose his starting job in Tampa. How many yards does Jameis have? Jameis has to have
great
25, question. 20. My guess is between 20 and 25,000 yards in his career is my guess for Jameis.
I should just look up Jameis Winston's passing yards instead of trying to get my link up.
List. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I did not have that list pulled up. Jameis Winston.
22,000.
22. He has 22,104. How about it?
I didn't even look. Like, my hands were up the whole time, but
I read his passing. I read his completions at first, and I was like, "You're way off, 1,700." And I was like, "That doesn't make any fucking sense."
He definitely threw for 5,000 yards one season.
Hey, also, he has a 141 to 99 touchdown to pick ratio. Thought that'd be a lot closer to even, but.
Oh, you thought he'd have he's 140 to 199 picks?
He's 141 to 99. I thought it'd be 120 to 110 or something closer.
It's crazy. I thought you said 199, and I was like, I buy it.
I buy it. Yeah. You have a 200 picks in 5 years?
I'd be like, yeah, I can see it. He had a 30 for 30 season. He threw 30 picks in one season.
I mean, you take
him is not nuts.
No, you take that season away, take that one season away, and he throws for 111 and 69 picks.
I will say it is wild to me that he has not gotten a second chance. Like, I am very dumbfounded by the fact that man has not gotten another chance. Yeah. Like, he was say what you will, a lot of first overall, Baker wasn't ever special, right? Baker's always been very good, right? Mm-hmm. No discredit. You've heard us talk about Baker. We love Baker. Jameis Winston was different. That dude could sling the rock, and he never got his real shot at a second chance. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if it ever will with the debacle that happened in the last game of the Saints season.
I don't think he's on a roster next season. Maybe he will for a different team. Maybe Sean Payton brings him back in. Could you imagine in Denver?
That'd be fucking. Why not? I mean, at least as a backup,
it'd be entertaining. To say the least,
But when you list this, you're like Dan Marino, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jameis Winston. Those are all the guys in NFL history that have ever thrown for 5,000 yards in a season. Yeah. And one of those guys is very different from the rest, and that'd be Jameis.
Yeah, that's that bothers me.
Okay, this is even better because they have the notes next to it here. So you're reading this off. You're like, this guy won an MVP. He's the first time to do it. This guy won Offensive Player of the Year, and he's the first guy to do it multiple times. He won Comeback Player of the Year, NFL MVP. And then you get to Jameson's led NFL in interceptions, 30.
Hey, you knew how to ball, okay?
That's so funny to me. You're just you're reading off all these awards. The first guy to do it multiple times. You're like, led the league in picks.
Dude knew how to sling the rock, homie. Don't disrespect my guy.
I want to see the 2019. I'd love to just pull up their year that year, how many games they won. Of course, don't want to fucking pull that up off this page. Oh, there it is. Tampa Bay, 7-9 that year with a 5,000-yard passer. It's almost like he threw 30 picks or something.
Yeah, dude could huck it. So
he could. There's no doubt about that he could huck the goddamn football.
All right. So with that wrapping up here, let's jump into the Super Bowl recap here. We're gonna kind of go team by team, give you our thoughts, and then we're gonna jump into, we'll talk about the Chiefs, then we'll talk about the Niners, and then we'll recap our bets real quick. Our bets were pretty simple. They went all one way for one of us, and so third Super Bowl for Mahomes, 3-1 in Super Bowls. What is where do you think this puts him on the all-time tree? This has been talked about a lot this week.
Man, it's hard to like just toss that like off the rip without thinking of top 10 quarterback. He's in the top 10, I think.
I disagree with you already.
Oh, you don't think he's in the top 10? That's me just trying to spitball.
No. He's top 3. Like,
oh shit.
Like, I think if he retires right now, I think there's a conversation.
You put him
he's
3?
He's not Brady yet, but I'd probably put him 3 right now.
Behind Montana?
Behind Montana. I think it's Brady, Montana, and then I think it's Mahomes, right?
Wow.
He has done more than Peyton Manning did, right? Peyton Manning walked away. He retired with what?
2.
3 Super Bowls? 2? Yeah, 2, right?
1 in Indy, 1 in Denver.
And then he lost 1 in Denver too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's already surpassed Manning, right?
Yep.
Who probably is in that conversation in the top 5 for a lot of people. He's probably,
if you take rings out of it, people say he's the second best of all time.
Yeah, and that's not crazy, right?
No,
he's already ahead. He's already 3 ahead of Aaron Rodgers, who people say is the most talented quarterback of all time. Yep. And I'm already going to say Mahomes is more talented than Rodgers.
I would agree.
I think that conversation's over. Like, whatever Rodgers held in the all-time conversation, it's over. It's completely. He's not the most talented quarterback anymore. It's Mahomes.
Yep.
And I think this third ring puts him in that conversation, right? He is as much as we said no one will ever do what Tom Brady did again, Mahomes is on pace to already beat that.
Yeah.
I think the real conversation for Mahomes' all-time legacy starts the minute Andy Reid retires. So if Andy Reid coaches 1, 2, 3 more years, right? Even if, let's say Reid coaches 3 more years and Mahomes gets 1 more Super Bowl, a worst case, right? Like, that's wild to say. Like, he could get 0, he could get 3. You know what I mean? You never know.
Yeah.
But let's just say he gets 1. Then can he catch Brady with a different coach? Because he does not have the luck that Brady had of him and Bill kind of being at the peak range to play all the way through together.
Yeah, to
Reid
have 20 years together.
Yeah, right? And I think it scares me less, right? They've moved on from Tyreek Hill and been fine. They'll probably have to move on from Chris Jones this offseason, right? And I'm not worried. I'm not as worried about that as some people, right?
He said at the parade he's coming back, but that's obviously a little drunken valor. We'll see what happens when there's dollar signs involved. But
we'll talk about him a little bit later.
Yeah.
And like when Kelsey's probably going to retire either before or when Andy retires. Like he said on his podcast, I think this week that he was like, if Andy retired tomorrow, he's like, I'm retiring with Andy.
When Big Red goes, I go. Yeah. So we're probably looking at 2 to 3 years max, I'd say.
On both of them, right? Like that's when the real test of his like if he can catch Brady, like if he wins the Super Bowl with 2 different coaches and still gets that 6-7 number, I think he passes Brady.
What's the minimum number of Super Bowls? So say they win 2 more. Say those 2 guys are around for another 3 years. They win 2 of the next 3. He ends with, we'll say he even made it and lost. So he'll be 5-2 in Super Bowls. Gets a new coach. Still has ridiculous numbers. Probably a couple more 5,000-yard passing seasons. Maybe another Super Bowl appearance or 2. Doesn't win another ring. Is it still possible to pass Brady with 5 rings? You don't think so?
No, not with 5. 6, it's an interesting conversation.
The thing I'm really curious, the longevity comes into it because say he gets 5, but he plays long enough, he beats Brady's all-time passing yard mark, he passes him in the touchdown mark. And the other thing is like, now obviously pace, people are like, at his current pace, he'll do this if he plays as long as Brady. And you're like, he'll throw for 20,000 more yards. And I'm like, I get that. That's all cool. But like saying a guy is going to throw for 4,000 yards at 40 years old is ridiculous. I know we just saw Tom Brady do it. It's Tom fucking Brady. That's not everybody, right? Peyton Manning was throwing ducks the last 2 years he played. So,
yeah. Well, and Mahomes will lose some edge, right? Like Mahomes is ultra talented, right? Like there's no question about that. He won't be as fast. They'll lose some of the scrambling element, like I'm not saying Mahomes won't age well. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just pointing out like there is the possibility these guys who play Mahomes-esque, Brett Favre, did not age well. Russell Wilson, not the same level of athlete as Mahomes, but a very similar guy who likes to improvise, move out of the pocket, throw on the, you know what I mean? These types of things, these guys age terribly because you either have to adapt or die, right?
Yep.
Like the guys we see do good at old ages are concrete feet, Tom Brady, pocket guys, right?
Peyton Manning.
Yeah. At most, Brady would move inside the pocket, step up, step to the side. Like not a guy who's extending a play. Like that'll be a test too. Like, is Mahomes able to adapt to, his ability to not do that? And who knows, maybe he'll be able to do that till he's 38, but like at some point that will cost you, right? Like, and Aaron Rodgers is like not the greatest example, but Aaron Rodgers is in that same tier, I would say, as Mahomes, same style of quarterback. And he tore his Achilles, right? And you can say, well, that wasn't on a scramble play, but is it because the wear and tear his body took? You know what I mean? Like, I think that has to be part of that conversation.
And it's going to drastically, even if you take it out of into a vacuum, coming off an Achilles tear at 38 years old is going to be insanely difficult. So we may be entering that season where it is change or die for Aaron Rodgers right now because you have survived to this point while doing so. You're now coming off the hardest injury to rehab in sports. How do you adapt now?
Yeah. And the point I'm trying to make here, right, to kind of like bundle this whole conversation together is if Mahomes wants to have the longevity that Brady had, he's going to have to adapt or die. Mm-hmm. Like he might be able to play like this until he's 38, 39, 40. Like he might be able to push that limit, but if he wants to play into 41, 42, 43, he will not be able to continue like this. That was the point, right? Like, so if he's able to adapt at 37, this point becomes mute. And I'm not saying it'll go one way or the other. I'm just saying that has to be part of the conversation of, can he pass Brady with 5? No, he just can't. If it's 6, I think it's really interesting. And if it's, 4 with Andy and 2 with another coach, I think it's a really good argument because Tom got 1 without Bill. Like that's the big misnomer of like, oh, Tom Brady won. Like
won directly after.
Yeah, he won
the first season without Brady.
Without Bill. Yeah, without Bill, right? But does that, like, I don't know if I call it a huge success because he was there 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah.
3 years and only got 1. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a success for Tampa Bay, but like if Brady really wanted to cement his legacy, man, you win 2 without Bill Belichick, you go, man.
And I think if he
swings it more.
Yeah. I think if he leaves 3 or 4 years earlier, I think there's a solid possibility for it. We're talking about a guy that was 45 when he retired. Like you're like, should have won an extra one. He's fucking 44. Like kickers don't play that long.
And he could have played another year. Like he could have played this season.
He could get signed by a team next year and probably be in the top 10 conversation throughout the season. Like I don't doubt it. Like he's not a fat slob already. Like he's still taking care of his body and everything. So yeah, Mahomes is a first ballot Hall of Famer right now. I hate it. I can't stand it. It burns my ass that I have the best quarterback in my franchise's history, arguably may go down as the best player in Ravens history if he plays his whole career here. And I will never be able to mention a sentence with Lamar Jackson's name without somebody being like, oh, but Patty was better. It hurts. It sucks. I hate it. But welcome to what the past 20 years was for every other team in the league, that had Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and all these other guys.
Yeah, rip if you're an AFC fan because it's just like you're like, well, here we go.
And that's what I saw a skit that was like, I think it was like the GOAT Quarterback Club or whatever by the guy that does all the great NFL skits, and he's like, Brady's like, all right, I'm gonna go for the three-peat. I'm coming for that seat, Tom. Don't you worry about it. And Tom gets on the phone. He's like, hey man, we got to get some more good quarterbacks in the AFC. And he's like, what do you mean all the good quarterbacks are already in the AFC?
Pretty much. true.
And it burns me that everyone's like, all right, well, I guess Joe Burrow's our last fucking hope because nobody else could get it done. It hurts me even more that that's the case, that it's a division rival is supposed to be the guy that could take him down, because currently he's the only guy that's done so in the postseason. Yeah. So,
I mean, Allen has played so well. Like, Allen is in the conversation. I would say Allen is probably the second best quarterback in the NFL, and his biggest hump is Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
Like the only guy who Allen can't beat is Mahomes.
My other question, I posed this to somebody else, and I don't remember how they answered it. I feel like they kind of waved me off, which I don't think is true, is fair. But is there a certain point that we get to where we start to give a little bit of a pass to the quarterbacks of this generation because they're playing at the same? Because, and I don't think Brady ever really got a pass because he hung around for fucking 23 years, right? There were guys that were able to win Super Bowls in that time frame, but like I look at Michael Jordan in the 90s, there's a lot of 90s, probably some of the best players in 90s basketball of that era that never won a ring because they played the same time as Michael Jordan. Like, when is that point? Do we get to it?
So, like, I will always say, like, if Brady doesn't exist, Manning probably has 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a fair statement. And then you could probably say Philip Rivers probably gets 1, you know?
Joe Flacco has 3.
I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Drew Brees probably gets, a second one, maybe a third one.
2
you know
or
what
3,
I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, what I'm trying to say is one.
Eli has none.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. Who knows?
We've never seen Eli be.
Aaron Rodgers might have 3 or 4. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, the point is you take Tom's 7 rings and you distribute them to the all-time greats. Mm-hmm. It probably isn't funneled super. Like, it's not going to be like Manning all of a sudden is going to have 6.
Yeah.
Like, he probably gets to 4. You know what I mean? He probably puts himself more in that top 3 conversation.
Yeah.
Do I think Josh Allen can win a Super Bowl? Yes. Do I think Joe Burrow can win a Super Bowl? Yes. Do I think Lamar Jackson still has a chance to win a Super Bowl? Yes. Like, the window isn't closed completely for all of these guys.
But it's just currently guarded by Patrick Mahomes, and he is not going to let anybody through that window until somebody breaks through that window. And Joe Burrow almost did until Matthew Stafford shut him out.
Yeah, right. So Matthew Stafford, like, they had that run. There's going to be a team that creates magic and is going to beat Mahomes, right? It's just it's the reality of the situation. Now, I think they get some pass. What separates, and this is what I've always said, is like what separates Drew Brees from the Ben Roethlisberger and the Peyton Manning conversation? The next ring, right? Like, any excuse Drew Brees had, I mean, and I would argue Drew Brees has less of an excuse because he played in the NFC where both those guys were in the AFC and they had to go against Tom.
Yeah.
And they still got 2 rings. Brees was on the other side, only made it to 1 Super Bowl. So that's why, like, when we...
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
I am right, but thank you.
I always am.
I'm right. I know. He actually beat Manning in his, but...
They did.
So, yeah, you look at that and you're like, that to me is what, like, why I hate the Drew Brees top 10 all-time conversation.
I love that guy.
Like, his numbers are there, and the way he played was great, but it never produced on the thing that we value quarterbacks the most.
Yeah,
at, right?
Statistically, he might be top 3 if you look at numbers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is insane to be like, his numbers top 3, rings not top 10.
And the other thing I'll say too to clarify that is I hold Aaron Rodgers to that same standard, right? What excuse did you have in the NFC? Like, Brady went against Eli Manning twice. You know
Mike McCarthy is his head coach. That's what his excuse was.
Yeah, I don't think Mike McCarthy was that bad, but
no,
I know you hate Mike McCarthy, but like, he's a good enough coach to at least get you there more than once.
Yeah, got him there twice.
It might be a combination of things, but like, there is less of an excuse. Like, I don't excuse it on that side. I would rather you have the Jim Kelly record of going 0-4 and be like, listen, dude, Jim got there. Okay.
True.
It's not his fault that he ran into the Niners, the Cowboys. Like, he lost to these all-time great teams.
Yeah.
So, like, if you said rank 90s quarterbacks, I'm putting Jim Kelly at 3. You know what I mean? I'm going to put him behind Steve Young and Troy Aikman, but I'm going to say that dude's definitely 3 with 4 Super Bowl appearances.
Fair. I give that to you.
Maybe you sneak, like, Favre's so weird in that conversation because
I think you stick, like, does Montana count as a 90s guy or no?
Yeah, like, I would put him more in the 80s category. Fair. Like, I'd say, like, if I had to, like, separate them, I'd put Montana in the 80s. Like
young in
Favre,
the
I'd say
90s.
early 2000, even though he won a Super Bowl in 96.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, that could be that,
It's
like,
weird.
that era is always tough because it's like age wise, I was 4 in 2000. So it's like,
Fair.
I think of Favre post 2000, even though the peak, like he won MVPs in the 90s. So he's probably a 90s QB. So maybe Jim Kelly's 4, Still, yeah.
Not a Super Bowl ring and being top 5 is pretty damn good for an era. You'll
Yeah.
give him that.
That's the point I was trying to make. So
Yeah, no. Mahomes is a Hall of Famer right now. Retire tomorrow, first ballot, not a question. Anybody who thinks otherwise is a hater or you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, I get it, guys. It's we're sick of hearing it. You're sick of hearing people talk about it. But I will tell you, from 2 guys that have watched football for 10, 15, 20 years plus now, this is the best quarterback I've seen with my own 2 eyes. Most talented. Like, because I said that, I remember I texted that to somebody and they're like, did Tom Brady die? And I was like, I'm talking about what I see on a football field in 60 minutes of play. This is the best guy I have seen. Now, obviously, he doesn't have the numbers or the rings, this, that, or the other. But like, when I say best, I mean talented.
This is I'll have this conversation with you because I think it's still interesting, and I don't want to spend too much more time on it. But it always bothered me when you said, last drive, games on the line, who are you taking? And people always took Aaron Rodgers over Brady. And I never understood it.
It is now continue. Sorry.
And it always drove me insane because I was like, how does that make any sense? Brady has always done great. The dude was a 6th round pick and he was in his 2nd season and he led a team on a game-winning Super Bowl drive. Like, huh? Like what is this conversation? It's like the talent outweighed him there. Now I got like 30 more seconds. Then now with Mahomes, you have the talent level of Aaron Rodgers and the clutchness of Tom Brady. If you wanted to say Mahomes over Brady in the final drive, I would go, I don't necessarily agree with you, but I see the argument.
It's
close. It's like I might be 52% Brady and 48% Patrick. You know what I mean?
Fair,
like,
yeah.
It's that level of close for me.
And that's exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up because I told somebody that at work exactly. I think that argument stems now. If I had a quarterback for one play, I need a 50-yard Hail Mary. Who would I have? Aaron Rodgers, no doubt. He's the best Hail Mary thrower of all time. He's thrown like
Doug Flutie.
True. He probably has the most famous one, but Rodgers thrown like 3 Hail Mary touchdowns to win or tie football games. That I think a lot of people get caught up on that fact when you ask them that question. I agree with you. It's Brady, and I was talking to somebody at work on Monday.
Can I counter that point real quick?
Yeah,
quick 30-second. Okay, saying Aaron Rodgers is clutch is like saying somebody who won the lottery is a good businessman. That's just flat out my opinion.
Fair. Well,
two different things.
How about this? A guy that hit the lottery 3 times is a good businessman. Like, it still does not. It's 1, luck. 3, it's luck.
Yeah, it's
fair.
Luck. So that's my go ahead. But that's all I want to say on that.
But yeah, I was talking to somebody on Monday, and he's a Chiefs fan, and of course, every time we talk about it, he's trying to rub it in my face that they took Baltimore out on the way, and I'm like, I would love to sit here and bitch at you and come after you, but I can't. Your team has the best quarterback in the game. But like, I was like, Brady is the best because despite never being the most talented, he always got the job done, right? When you look at a lot of those, we talk about all the guys that we've mentioned to this point, right? Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys. Like, is Brady more talented? No. But why is Brady the best of all time? Because he got the fucking job done. Now we're looking at Patrick, you're like, he is the most talented and he gets the job done. That's why he's going to retire as the best guy of all time, most likely.
Yeah, I'd say he's got the best chance.
Best chance by far. Yeah, I shouldn't say most likely.
We've seen in a long time. And we've always said this about good teams, right? We talk about it a lot, is they just win, right? It doesn't matter what it takes, doesn't matter what the game looks like. They just find a way to win. And Mahomes and Brady are very much on that level, right?
Yep.
The whole game, I don't know about you, everyone watching that game, the 49ers were leading most of that game, right?
Yeah.
I think there was 3 lead changes the whole game. The whole time, the 49ers are up a touchdown, 3 points, whatever. I still was sitting there going, I think the Chiefs win. Like, they're behind, and I'm going, yeah, I haven't lost any faith. Like, when they were down 10 points, I was still going, yeah, I think they win.
I don't know if I was sitting there and being like, oh, I think they win this game, because I did have a lot of faith in the Niners and that they were a well-coached team, but I was like, it's definitely not over. I was like, they could have been down. They could have been down 28-3 at halftime. I wouldn't have thought it was over.
Oh, why'd you have to do that to your boy Kyle?
Just
That's
taking the
messed up.
jab.
Just spin the knife around.
Sorry, but yeah, like there was no point in that game where I thought they were out of it, and no point in any scenario that you would have came up with outside of a 2-touchdown lead with less than 30 seconds where I would have thought Patrick Mahomes was out of it. And even 2 touchdowns in 30 seconds, I'm like, I got to see the onside kick first after they score the first one, and then I might lose hope if they don't get the onside back, right? But like, he has earned that level of respect, and that is the crazy part about it. And I think that's the largest testament to his legacy so far, is he has earned that Brady-esque respect of never being out of a football game, and he's 28 years old. It took Brady until he's like 36, 35 until we're like, this game's not over. It's not over until that guy says it's over, right? Until 12 says it's over, it's not over. It's not over until 15 says it's over. So,
all right, let's jump into this next topic. I'm going to pivot off the script here.
Okay.
I don't really like. We can spend 30 seconds on this. Mahomes or Kelsey and Reed's interaction during the game. Yeah. They covered it on their podcast. I think they covered it beautifully. It was passionate people having a passionate argument that just wanted to win. And that's kind of, I don't have anything else to add to it. I just had it on there in case you did, but I really don't. I think it's well covered at this point. So
yeah, anytime you are one of the best players in football, especially best players at your position, and a turnover happens in a game, a turnover happens when you're not on the field in a game that you're down in, you're going to be upset, right? And, he's getting it at Coach Reed because he wants to be in the football games. I don't care if we're running the ball. I'll fucking block. We're in the Super Bowl. Don't take me off the field. 100% understand where he's coming from. I'm glad that they were able to laugh it off afterwards, and, that Andy can sit there in post-game 40 minutes after it happened and be like, he's a passionate kid. He wants to be on the football field. I'm never going to fault him for it. Like maybe if he would have knocked me over, it would have got more serious, there would have been a story there. But I agree. I think there was more of a story because he almost knocked him over, because Andy Reid wasn't ready for it. I think if Reid is watching him run up to him and that happens, I don't think we're talking about it as much. But he caught him off guard, almost knocked him over. That's where half the story comes from. It's a passionate guy, best tight end in the football, a top 5 tight end of all time. He wants to be on the football field every snap possible. No, not much more to it.
So let's jump into the next conversation. I want to talk about Kyle Shanahan's play calling. This is the one that we didn't have on there.
Okay.
To me, I'm going to defend Kyle Shanahan in a little bit. I do need to criticize him here. In the third quarter, was it the third? Yeah, I think it was the third, when they had those 3 straight 3-and-outs. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, why won't he run the ball? I just was watching it, and I was having flashbacks. I was like, this is Atlanta all over again.
I was having flashbacks. Felt like the AFC title game. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Come on. I watched the whole first half, and I'm like, every single time Christian McCaffrey had a carry for over 4 yards, I got mad. I'm like, this should have been us. I was like, we should be sitting here playing the 49ers right now, but we abandoned the run. And that was my whole talking point coming up to the Super Bowl. I was like, do I count Patrick Mahomes out? No. But I do like the Niners in this game because Kyle Shanahan won't abandon the run like Baltimore did. And here I am watching in the third quarter, and I'm like, well, way to make me look like a fucking idiot, Kyle. Thanks.
Christian McCaffrey ended with like 80 yards on the game.
Yeah.
And he was he had a first half where I think he had 40 or 50 in the first half.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I was like, oh, man, they're moving the ball. I was like, man, if they could just keep this up, just maintain this.
Yeah. I mean, you keep going. I was just going to chip in after you're done.
You looked ready, so I was just going to let you fire on that one. But I was like, man, why is he doing this? Why is he just – they had clearly figured out Purdy at that point, right? Like they said, hey, if Purdy's got a 3rd and long, we're just going to pressure him. We're just going to send a blitz.
We're going to send 7. Call it a day.
We're going to send 7, and we're going to cut like they called cover 0, and there were several times watching the game. I'm like watching, and they're not non-football people, but they're just not. It's not like you and I were watching the game.
Yeah.
These are just casual fans. And I said, that is such a ballsy play. And they're like, why? What? I was like, that was cover 0. They're like, what does that mean? I was like, he just said I was like, that I'm blanking on his name.
Spags.
Spags. I'm like, Spags is just going, if we get in his space, he's not going to throw it to anybody. So it doesn't matter if they're covered or not. Just send everybody. I'm like, what the hell? That corner blitz in the fourth quarter, I was like,
with Trent
dude,
McDuffie.
the nuts on that guy is insane.
And I'll give him credit. He knew that he could run. Like, there are a lot of quarterbacks in the league where that doesn't work.
No.
Lamar Jackson, probably a good 80% of the quarterbacks that may not work on in this league, but it is a rookie, and people have been all over Brock Purdy, right? There's a lot of talk up until the Super Bowl. Is he good? System, game manager, whatever. Where Brock Purdy can separate himself and put a lot of these to bed, if you're not going to be special, during the play, and you don't have this crazy arm talent, this, that, or the other, you have to try to emulate Peyton Manning. You have to be the smartest guy before the ball is snapped. Because I do think there were multiple times, and including that Trent McDuffie blitz, where, now I'm not saying, I don't know if Peyton Manning would have even realized it, because McDuffie came up on the hard count and backed off, and it was at a 3 or 4 yard set from the line of scrimmage. You're not thinking a corner is blitzing when he's 4 yards off. But he did, right? So, and I'm not saying that Purdy should have made this play. That is where the growth, I think, Brock Purdy can make himself a top 10 quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback by any stretch, but if you're not going to be the special in during the play and do all these amazing things, that is where the growth happens to me. And I do think there was a couple times on throwaways, on sacks and hurries where he could have avoided it with a couple pre-snap reads that just weren't there, right? And so, like, if I'm Brock Purdy, that's what I'm working on in the offseason. But I agree. Spags was lining up and said, this isn't Peyton Manning, right? This isn't Aaron Rodgers. This isn't a guy that's going to escape out of here. It's not a guy that's going to create with his legs a ton. And he's not a guy that's going to recognize what we're sending at him a good 80% of the time. I'd send the fucking house after him too. But it is a gutsy call.
Once they had it, it was just like, he was like, cool, we got it. If it's 3rd and 7, I know what we're doing. Like, he knew what the answer was, right? Like, it was, he was taking the test and he already knew what the correct answer was. It didn't matter. He was already circling C. He said, it's C. We're just sending this and it's going to go. So, but yeah, I was ultimately really disappointed in that play call, like the play calling by Kyle. I was like, man, you're not helping Brock out at all. Like, McCaffrey has looked unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was times where I was like, man, McCaffrey wants this more than anyone else on this football field.
And the first half, like, because everyone was talking about it afterwards, so, like, the Chiefs shut down the run game. He averaged under 4 yards a carry. It's not something you can really manage. Firstly, I guarantee he was averaging over 4 during the first half. A lot of that second half stuff, they're giving it to him in not the right spot. I think there was a couple spots they should have ran. They didn't, and vice versa, obviously. The first half was San Francisco's. They didn't cash in with points. And I know a lot of people, the Chiefs haters, are, well, if the ball doesn't hit the 49ers' ankles on that muffed punt and they get the touchdown right after, then I'll win the game. Well, what ifs don't.
Maybe they don't.
I was like, what ifs don't really fucking matter because it happened, right? Like, the muff punt happened. I know it's a short change. I'm not asking the Niners defense to go out and get a stop there. It is virtually impossible to probably hold them out of the end zone in that scenario. But all right, San Francisco's offense has to answer. You have to come out and make up for that mistake at that point, because it's hard to stop any NFL offense when you hand them the ball at the 25-yard line, especially the Chiefs offense.
The thing I'll say about that, like, everyone looked at that play. It was the turning point in the game, right? The momentum shifted. You could feel it. It was almost just as likely that Mahomes connects on a deep shot than like that could have happened or this could have happened, right? So, like, to say, like, oh, if that doesn't happen, well, you know what could have happened? On the very next drive, McCole Harmon's open and he hits him for a 55-yard bomb for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Right? Like that could have easily just as happened as well. So to me, it's kind of a null and void point of, like, Mahomes makes one big play that's, in his control, and the momentum swings just like it did there.
And we could talk. I mean, that's the thing. You could toss what ifs the whole time. What if Patrick Mahomes shredded his Achilles running out on the field, not Dre Greenlaw? What if? Cool. Why are we talking about it? Because it didn't happen. So
yeah. All right. Let's dive into the overtime decision, right? And
yeah.
I think this is a really complex. I was talking about it with somebody at work today, and I think it's a really complex decision. There's no doubt about that. Here's my reasoning why I think Kyle Shanahan made the right decision. Okay. I know a lot of people have been super critical, saying, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you giving Patrick Mahomes the fourth down? Yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Let's say the 49ers go down and score. They
Score
could
a
go for
touchdown.
2. They score a touchdown, right? We're gonna run. I know we just talked about what ifs, but this is the what if behind the reasoning to me why it matters. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
You haven't been able to stop Mahomes all night, right? Like
In the
going
second
into
half.
overtime in the second half, yeah, right. You're going into the second half. You're going into this overtime knowing Mahomes is one of the most unstoppable players all time in overtime, right? This man is clutcher than clutch. He is going to score a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where I'll vary from what Kyle did. Like, I don't think they should have kicked that field goal. I think they should have gone for it. But
And I'll take it a step further. I think 3rd and 5, run the ball, then make your decision on 4th and 2. You might get it. You might run for 6 yards there, get a first down. Throwing on 3rd and 5 and taking a shot at the end zone was not the right call.
No.
It set up the 4th down for the field goal. That's, to me, where the problem starts.
They should have been treating it like the Chiefs were treating it on that second drive where, hey, 4th down is in play. We're going to treat 3rd down like, hey, if we can get a 3-yard check down or a run or whatever, put ourselves in an easier position for 4th down. They should have been doing that on the first drive, regardless. Ball first or second. But let's run through, right? Let's say the 49ers go down, they score a touchdown, they get the 2-point conversion. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, because everyone's argument here, well, even if the 49ers scored a touchdown, kicked the extra point, we were going to go for 2 and win the game that way. So let's say the 49ers go down, they score 8 points on it. Mahomes goes back, does the same thing. This is why it's the right call, is because if Mahomes matches you there, your best opportunity to win the game is on that third possession. You just need a field goal to win. It's sudden death. That is the 49ers' best chance. I'm not talking analytics. I'm not talking statistically. I'm saying real game sense. Their best opportunity to win the game was, hey, we go push for Mahomes, right?
Yep.
Now, I think the field goal was ultimately the big mistake. Right. Yeah. The field goal was because Mahomes is probably more than likely going to score there. So for me, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, say I'd rather lose by going for it on 4th down and trying to get the touchdown than kick the field goal and lose that way.
I agree.
Game sense wise tells me Mahomes is scoring a touchdown. I don't care if you get the touchdown, kick the extra point and say, because this is the other part of it too, right? They go down, they kick the extra point, they get 7. You have a better chance of getting it on the 3rd drive or stopping Mahomes on a 2-point conversion to win the game than you ever do
of holding
getting the ball second. Yeah. And then trying to hopefully we hold them on the 3rd drive.
Yeah.
Game sense wise, to me, it makes the argument on the other side makes little to no sense.
And the thing that makes it worse is, and you could say whatever you want, the comments made, oh, we didn't know about the overtime rules, this, that, or the other, right? Use check and multiple players talking about it afterwards. It's all hearsay, right? People have walked back their comments, this, that, or the other, right? Use check is like, oh, people are just trying to use it to shit on Kyle after the fact, whatever. Firstly, the fact that you did not have a meeting about it beforehand, right? And that is a large thing.
I think again, to me, I'm going to defend this a little bit too.
Okay.
It matters less that the players understand what's going on. Long as Kyle and the coaching staff understood the rules, I don't really care if Kyle Juszczyk, my fullback, gets what the hell's happening.
Fair.
It is slightly bad to be underprepared, right? I'm not going to argue that point to you. Mm-hmm. How much does it matter in reality? I don't think it matters. If Brock Purdy just trusts Kyle Shanahan enough that he understands it, that's what matters the most.
And the other issue is, right, and then Shanahan comes out and he's like, oh, we're planning for the 3rd drive. Then why are you kicking a field goal on the 1st, right? Because I sit there and I'm the same way with you, I get to that 4th down, and part of me is like, oh, well, I would have gone for it. But honestly, I get it that they had struggled in the second half, but they put up probably the second best game any defense has against Patrick Mahomes in this postseason outside of Baltimore. I think Baltimore did a better job at holding them in that game, held them 17 points. You would play the second best game, so I understand wanting to have faith in your defense. But again, the 3rd and 5 call, throwing the ball, that's the mistake. You have to put yourself, at least get yourself to the 4th and 2, right? Now we have a conversation. I understand. Maybe you're not as confident on 4th and 5 because you feel like the run's out of it. You just had an incomplete pass. You're not really thinking that you have a good shot here on 4th and 5. Well, what if we had just ran the goddamn ball? Even if we went par for the course and got 3 yards, 4th and 2, we're back in running territory. We could do a lot of different things here. I could throw a flat route to Kyle Juszczyk if I wanted to on 4th and 2. If you're planning for the third drive, you cannot kick a field goal on the first. That's that. I also find it insane that the Chiefs didn't have that game-winning play installed until like the final practice on that Friday before the Super Bowl. They ran it twice for 2 touchdowns last year's Super Bowl. And they were like, hey, we should probably throw this back in there. And it turns out to win the game. Game-winning touchdown goes to fucking McCole Hardman of all people, who started the year on the Jets, comes back in, disappointing season, didn't do a ton in the receiving game, didn't do a ton in the return game, makes the Super Bowl winning catch. I mean, just a crazy year for him on, a way to end it like that. But I agree. There was just so many things. I mean, you could say, because, right, people have been getting after Kyle, right? You're unprepared. You should have deferred this, that, or the other. The bottom line is there were multiple mistakes made, and those mistakes are somewhat understandable, but they don't line up with the excuses that you're giving me. Or we're planning for the third drive. That you can't kick a field goal, right? I mean, does not go hand in hand.
I think we're in alignment of like he made the right decision but played it wrong. Basically, you need to be more. You need to go for it. Be more aggressive on 3rd and 4th down, right? Like understand. Hey, I can take the 3-yard check down. I can take the 2-yard run out of McCaffrey on 3rd and 5s because I can play for 4th, and I can't settle for the field goal. That's just not a viable option.
Yeah, you cannot be aggressive and take the ball first against Patrick Mahomes and then chicken shit out and kick a field goal at the end of the drive. And I will agree, because Tony Romo talked about it a little bit at the end of regulation. It was like, if your defense is coming off a long drive, they might be gassed. You're not having a lot of faith in a team that if your defense just came off the field after a 6-minute drive to end the game, I don't even remember how the end of that game played out. But if your defense is gassed, that might have went into the decision-making at that point as well. If you're like, well, I don't want to run a tired defense out against Patrick Mahomes. We have no shot to stop. We definitely don't have a shot to stop him at that point, right? Yeah. So again, you cannot be aggressive and then chicken shit out at the end. That is the worst way to lose in sports. If you're going to make mistakes, make them aggressively. Go for it on 4th down. Lose it there. That is a much better way to go down than to be aggressive and then kind of let up at the end.
As much as people criticize Dan Campbell for the way that they lost to the 49ers, you're like, man, I wish the 49ers had 50% of the balls that Dan Campbell has. Because if that's Dan Campbell in that situation, I promise you
he's going for it
on that 4th part.
Yeah, 100%.
He would have understood that they need the touchdown, right? Like, it's either touchdown or bust, and then we either have to hope we can stop them. Like, because I even respect getting the 7 and, kicking the extra point and going, okay, hey, he's going to score. We just got to pray we can can stop him on the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
Like, that's our best bet. Hope he makes a mistake and hope we can stop him on the 2-point conversion, because I just, statistically speaking, it's just like, I keep saying statistically, but like, it's just the logic in my brain that's the statistics. There's no, like, I don't have
numbers,
analytics in front of me, like to say like, oh, the pie chart says you should have gone for it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, as a person who like is watching the game and has a feel for it and is just like, that's not the call I would have made. If I could get in his ear, I would have been like, we need to go for it. We need to be aggressive.
The eye test says if number 15 red's on the other side, you don't play it safe. You go for it. You have to go. There's no chance. You cannot leave the ball. You cannot leave the game in Patrick Mahomes' hands and expect to win. You will lose every single time.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brock Purdy's play for a second. I want to pull this up because I want to talk to you about this part specifically. I thought this was awesome. Okay. So everyone is saying Brock Purdy had a good game. Would you say Brock Purdy had a good game?
He had an
okay game.
Okay game. Pretty good.
Everyone's defending him. Okay. This is first off, shout out Ghetto Gronk for just posting fire stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Funny stuff most of the time. Slightly inappropriate, but okay.
So are we.
Brock Purdy was 61% completion, 267 yards, 1 touchdown, 89.3 rating, QBR. Pretty good. Like, I'd say that's okay.
Solid.
Right? Jalen Hurts last year, everybody was like, wow, you choke artist, you lost the game. 71% completion, 374 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 103 rating. Okay. So I say that to not only defend Jalen, but also to put in perspective of like Jalen Hurts is more in the conversation for being an elite quarterback than Brock Purdy is, right?
100%.
Jalen had an off year, but like the way Jalen played in the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs versus the way Brock played it is just, to me, there's a night and day difference there. Like everyone keeps putting it like it's on the same level, and it's truly just not. Like there's just no other way to describe that.
The bad part and the thing that takes it from good to okay or great to okay that knocks Brock Purdy down a level is the best part of his game in the Super Bowl was not turning the ball over.
Right.
That can't be the best part of your night. You're never going to beat Patrick Mahomes if the thing I did best was I didn't make a mistake. Cool. That's the bare minimum, dog. You're not supposed to make mistakes, right? Like you cannot do it that way. So it's a bit on Brock at that point, but it's also a bit on Kyle. I don't think they put him in the best spots a lot of the time, right? But that's also where you separate good from elite. You're in a bad spot. Your coach didn't put you in a good spot. The defense didn't put you in a good spot. What do you do when the cards are stacked? Because good quarterbacks fold. Elite quarterbacks find a way to get the job done, or at least get damn close to it, right? Jalen Hurts last year got damn close to it. Brock Purdy this year didn't, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Steve Wilks. To me, again, slightly unlogical to fire him.
I agree.
Coming off, that defense was top 5 all year. No question, right?
Yep.
Steve looked good. Chase Young had like maybe the best game of his career in that Super Bowl. He looked amazing. The 49ers defense, like you said, was probably the second best defense that had played Mahomes. Maybe the best, some would argue. They played him really well. They got an interception off of him. Not many people were able to do that.
It's the first postseason interception he's ever thrown.
Which is nuts.
Fucking
so
insane.
Like here's the biggest argument I'm going to say for Steve Wilks. Okay. If you said, hey, Steve Wilks came in an interview and said, hey, when we play Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, I'm going to hold him to 19 points. You'd be like, cool, you're hired.
Yeah.
You're in. Let's go. Awesome. Hey, I can get this team to at least score 21 in the end of regulation, right? Kyle Shanahan's thinking that in his head, and he didn't do it. Like, in my opinion, if you said, hey, these two had an agreement, who didn't hold up their end of the bargain, it's Kyle Shanahan, right? Like, I was like, man, Steve Wilks had that defense rolling. Like, what else did you want the man to do?
Yeah. Other than doing the absolute impossible and stopping Mahomes on the last drive. That's the only thing. Yeah. And again, it's impossible for a fucking reason. Now, for the people out there that are like, well, if you're looking for a scapegoat, somebody to fire, it should have been Shanahan. Absolutely not. Horrible decision. No. If I can fire one of the two, I'll fire Wilks 10 out of 10 times. Doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it the right decision to fire Wilks either. Now, the only thing to me that makes up for this, where I'm like, okay, really wasn't a terrible move, if there is a top DC that lands this job. Like, if they go hire Brian Flores to be their DC, I'm like, all right, I'll live. They won't.
Brian's in Minnesota.
They won't, but, like something along those lines would make me think, okay, I somewhat understand the move. You can't, does it look soft? That was the question I heard today. Was it a soft move by Shanahan to fire Steve Wilks? I think it was a little soft to do it, 2 days removed from the Super Bowl. Yeah. I think that's a little weird. Because what was they played a great game against Patrick Mahomes. Now, if they were to let go of him before the Super Bowl, it'd be like, okay, because they played a shit game against Green Bay. They played a shit game against Detroit. And were able to, again, Brock Purdy, the reverse Dak Prescott, comes through in the clutch moments, won them those 2 games. The defense did not win them against Green Bay. It did not win them the game against Detroit. Obviously, they got some stops down the stretch. That's how you win games. But they were in bad spots. They almost lost the 2 games they played beforehand because of the defense. The Super Bowl was not on Steve Wilks. It was not on Fred Warner. And who knows what happens? Drake Greenlaw's out there or not for that whole game. What a horrible fucking injury.
Yeah,
it might be the worst injury in as far, not obviously like the brutality of it, but like when you're talking about timing and everything, it might be the worst injury I've ever seen in sports. Like pure non-contact juice, just trying to run back out on the field to play football in a Super Bowl and to have your season just stolen from you like that is fucking heartbreaking. Like that is just a horrible way to go down.
So I want to read you this article from Yahoo Sports. Okay. I'm glad when you mentioned you want to talk about it, I was like, oh man, I forgot I read this. Okay. Internal candidates for to replace Steve Wilks. Okay. Nick Swarson is on the top of the list. Previously in 2021, he was the Jacksonville Jaguars special teams coordinator. He spent last season as their passing game. What do they call it? Passing game
coordinator.
And defensive passing game coordinator. Thank you. Daniel Bollocks, who I don't know. It's his 7th season with the 49ers. So he's been their safeties coach for the last couple seasons. Chris Korak, who spent the last 5 seasons as the 49ers D-line coach. Johnny Holland, his 8th season with the 49ers, 5th season as linebackers coach. None of those names are like, wow, like jumping at me. You know what I mean? It's an internal hire. So probably there's so much talent on the defense. You probably can't go wrong, but it's not exciting. External. I love this external list. First name, Bill Belichick as your defensive coordinator.
Fuck off.
There's just no shot that happens, right?
No. The guy wouldn't take a head coaching job without being also the GM. He's not taking a DC job. That's ridiculous.
Let's jump into the next one. Pete Carroll is the next one on this list. Also feels like an impossibility.
No.
Now this one's slightly more interesting to me. Mike Vrabel. If you could get Mike Vrabel, I don't know. I don't think he was ever the defensive coordinator.
I think he went straight to head coach, if I remember right.
Oh no. Okay. This says first 3 years as linebacker coach and then their defensive coordinator in 2016. So he's 1 year as a defensive coordinator, which is just it's so wild.
It's
to me that's your list. It's like, man, I don't know if you could get any of those guys.
It's possible for Vrabel. Now, if there were any head coaching spots open, you're like, fuck no. There's no chance in hell. The only reason that Vrabel has a shot to be their DC is because right now he's probably not in the NFL next year. Currently, as it currently sits, he's probably not going to be on a sideline next year, which is fucking insane to say. But if I'm Vrabel, I take the job because, I don't know if I do. I think he gets a head coaching job next year regardless. Like, I don't think Vrabel needs to rebound with the Niners, but it would be good to just get another year of tape in.
I think the point is all the sexy names are gone.
Yeah.
Mike Zimmerman would have been an intriguing name.
Yeah,
he's
Zimmerman.
Off the market with the Cowboys. You could have talked me into Vic Fangio. Would have been a really interesting name. He's in Philly, even though he wasn't really actually available, right? Like that was.
Yeah, I think he's jumped over from. I think he parted ways with Miami and then landed there.
Yeah. I think he has family who lives in Pennsylvania, so I think he said basically like, I want to be close to my family.
Fair. It's an upgrade of a job too, in my opinion.
Yeah. So it's like you sit here and you're just like everyone who was a strong external candidate is gone.
Yeah.
Now, I think you have an interesting argument. Does Bill Belichick love football enough to come back as the 49ers DC and to prove to everyone he can work with somebody else?
It's a historic franchise. Like if there's
it's really interesting.
If there's a franchise he would take a DC job at, I think there's only 2 that come to mind, and it would be Green Bay or it'd be San Fran, just from the franchise's perspective. But
I'd probably take the DC job back in New York, like old days. If that team was more talented, I think that would be on the table.
Wait, are you saying with the Jets?
No, with the Giants.
Oh, wait, okay, with the Giants. Sorry. Fair.
Yeah, his old job, like he was back when Bill Parcells was the head coach.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever coached with the Jets. I don't think
he just signed with them and then.
Yeah,
bounced.
I think like Parcells retired almost immediately, and then they were like, "Oh, well, since he's retiring, we're just going to make Belichick the replacement." And then Belichick was like,
"Actually, never mind. I'm going to go kick your ass in the division for 20 years instead."
But for Kyle, though, it's an interesting thing that you want to be able to just give that defense away and let somebody handle it, and Vrabel and Belichick would be really interesting candidates to do that.
Yeah. All 3 of those guys would be interesting, but the first 2, probably under a 10%, under a 5% chance. Vrabel, you're still under 50 probably. Like, again, rebounding and putting up a good year of tape with the Niners defense or not, Mike Vrabel will 90% most likely be a head coach next year. You know,
100%.
I want to say 100%, but I thought there was a 100% chance he got hired this year. So
yeah, I'm kind of shocked he didn't get hired.
It's insane.
All right, let's jump into our bets here for the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
you want to jump into?
No, I'm good. I think we hit it.
Yeah, we're probably not going to do our last segment. We'll save that for a future episode down the line. I just don't want to sprint through something. I want to spend we should spend a good amount of time on. But I'm not going to read our prompt because we're not giving out any gambling advice today. But I finished the season 28, 32 and 1 push, 4 under. So if you followed me all season, you wouldn't have made money, but you would have been close. You would have done okay.
You probably would have lost a dime or two.
Yeah, but God, if I just stopped betting on Atlanta this year.
Yeah, if you would have taken your own advice in week 8, you probably come out 4 over.
Yeah, like I probably do so. I probably if you
you probably break even, and then if you just decided to reverse or not flip, but just take it to the next level and just bet against Atlanta the rest of the year, then you go 4 over.
I bet you if you flipped all my Atlanta picks throughout the whole season, I'm probably up like 10. It's probably insane. I lost every time I bet against Atlanta, they won. Every time I bet with them, I feel like I hate Atlanta forever.
I know you stopped like keeping track of the whole script through each season because it just got to 20. I do think we should try to just keep all of our bets in just so we could. Yeah. I'd love to just compile the numbers at the end of the year and be like, fucking biggest losers, Atlanta Falcons. Fuck you.
Well, and the scripts got repetitive too. It was just like,
I don't blame you.
But yeah, the bets next year we'll do a page for the bets. And honestly, I want to do a page where we can keep like some of the make it easier to access some stuff, but that's
we'll talk about it.
But yeah, 28, 32 and 1 for me. Hit both the Super Bowl bets, Chiefs plus 2.5. That definitely worked out. And then the under snuck by that half a point, 47.5, and it hit 47.
Thank you to the blocked extra point. That's what won you that bet right there. It's the blocked extra point from Moody.
Really good point. Holy cow.
I saw that. That was the bad beat of the Super Bowl. Well, there's 2 bad beats because Brock Purdy's line for rushing yards is 12.5. He had 13. The kneel down that he had took him -1, took him right back under the yard. No. So those are your 2 bad beats in the Super Bowl. What's my overall for the year? Because I don't have the script pulled up in front of me.
Oh, the overall for you is 32, 19 and 1.
Yeah, and I went almost direct against you. I had just San Francisco money line. I wasn't going to take -2.5 because I didn't feel that confident. Obviously, they lose the heartbreaker in overtime. And I had the over 47.5 again. I got hit by the bad beat this week. The blocked extra point lost me the bet. Well, it won you the bet. So, damn good year overall for me.
You had a great year betting. I do want to give a quick shout out to Sean. He is a
name dropper,
valid listener. And God, if my computer would load this. Sean and I have been doing prop bets. I don't know, like long before gambling was legalized. Mm-hmm. Sean and I have done this prop bet sheet.
I remember
Google Drive. For I don't know how many years. Sean will know for sure. That seems like something. And we finally started to keep records of it. I wonder how far back the records go.
I feel like it's 10 plus from what I remember you talking about.
We've done this thing forever. Man, he might have all of them in here. I don't know if he's saved any of them. He absolutely destroyed me this year in props.
Did he?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Who did we? First one we have saved is Tampa KC. So it's been a while, but we've been doing it long before that. So
I think I remember you talking about it the first time. I think it was 10 plus or close to 10 from what I remember.
I won 7 props. Sean won 13 props against me.
Oh my
God.
We
did 20 props. He won 13 of them.
Hell fucking yeah, Sean.
Just to give him shout out, we do $1 per prop, $20 on the game. He only had to pay. I got the game bet right because I had the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. He only had to pay me $8 because he just crushed me in props.
Welcome to the winner circle, Sean.
Yeah, I mean I think there was a couple pushes in there. That's we had more than 20, but I think we had some pushes. I think lead changes. We had over under 3. It was exactly 3.
It was 3.
We had winning color, the winning team's color Gatorade. Neither one of us hit that one. And a couple of them we cheesed. Like we cheesed like longest play. Like I think somebody else had the longest play that we didn't have picked, and we just picked out of who we had picked, basically.
I see.
So shout out to Sean for just kicking my ass in props. I'm like walking out like shit, like because my FanDuel, I had the Chiefs +2, and I had the under, and I put $50 on that, so that hit. So that was a nice
It's
payout.
probably a real nice payout, yeah.
I did another parlay where I had Chiefs money line, and I was so close. I had Chiefs money line, the under, Mahomes over passing yards was hit, and then I had McCaffrey over rushing. That was the only one that was like 5 yards off.
You're a third quarter away from it hitting.
That payoff would have been insane if that hit. So I had a good Super Bowl weekend, made a decent amount of money, and then fucking Sean kicked my ass in props.
Yeah, my paychecks didn't line up. I didn't end up putting any money down. Like, if I'll tell you this, like if I were to, the reason I try not to bet a lot is because I do have somewhat of an addictive personality. I'm gonna be the one calling that fucking helpline if I'm putting money down every weekend. Mm-hmm. But a fun story for you before we wrap up here. Max actually talked Heath into a couple coworkers of ours. Heath is our non-sports watching coworker that works at the Dixon.
Die hard Broncos fan.
Yeah, that's right. Diehard Russell Wilson fan. Max actually talked him into downloading FanDuel and DraftKings for it, but just like, they're running all the promos, the extra $100 free bets or whatever. And I think they ended up doing like some extra props or extra like bonuses on Super Bowl Sunday. So like Max referred him, so he got the extra bets or whatever. And then Heath ended up on Super Bowl Sunday, got his wife to do it too. And basically like, he just put like all of his free bets on one app on the Niners and everything. And then on the other app, he put it all on the Chiefs. So he's playing with free money either way. He put like $40-$50 in. But he was going to win on either app. And then on Super Bowl Sunday, he got his wife to do the same thing. He walked out with like $400+ on Super Bowl Sunday.
Good for him.
I was like, hey, what a fucking great advice from Max there. So there it is, folks. You're gambling your pyramid scheme for the Super Bowl next year. Get a couple people that don't do it. Get them each on 2 apps and have them just bet one way or the other. They're playing with house money at that point. There you go. That's your
pretty smart.
Infinite money glitch. There you go. That's what we're gonna call it.
But, all right, you got anything else for these people?
No, that should be it. Like we said, probably maybe some late March stuff for some free agent updates, unless something major happens. Mid-March, and then we'll definitely hit probably early to mid-April, give you probably two pre-draft episodes that will record our grades and everything for the first round on that Friday after. So you'll probably get that episode on Saturday while rounds 4 through 7 are happening.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and that'll probably wrap her up, and then we're obviously I'm not gonna fucking schedule out when we're doing shit in August, but
yeah, we'll get back to football. We normally start pretty early. We will, so we'll be back March. We'll do a free agency episode. We were going to try to fit it into this episode.
Obviously, we talked about Patrick Mahomes for 35 minutes.
Yeah, we talked for a long time on some stuff, which is okay. We're not going to scramble and just like spitball stuff and try to like run through it. So as we get closer, we'll give you a free agency preview, post week 1 of free agency kind of reaction. Then we'll jump back into the draft stuff. So it'll be a little in and out, but we don't get paid to do this. We do this for fun. So that's
True.
Why if we were getting paid, we'd probably do an episode every week and find something to talk about, but we do it for fun. So we'll probably catch you guys on the flip side there. So
100%. So until we talk to you guys next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in March.